studio with us. I say studio, it's actually my office, but that we've kind of just hung a bunch of lights in. But Dave Brat, good to see you, man.
Thanks for
Are
having
you
me.
a doctor? Dr. Dave Brat?
I am a doctor.
Wow, that is...
Doctor of economics.
Doctor of economics. Yep. Wow. Man, that's impressive.
Did you know that when you were beating him in racquetball?
Well...
No, he showed no mercy or respect. No grace whatsoever.
I'm a doctor of racquetball.
He's a doctor of racquetball.
Unfortunately, that's about it's racquetball and sing. Those are the only two skills I have.
Yeah.
And with you, you got all these skills, a doctorate of economics. But we're going to go way back. First of all, you're the dean of the School of Business at Liberty. You are a former congressman. What else? Tell us what else there's a long list, but you tell us.
Yeah, just I took the liberal arts path kind of seriously. Went to Hope College, Holland, Michigan. Great professors. I had a great professor of systematic theology, a great pastor guy there, and then a world religions guy. Three great mentors. And they got me reading across the board. And then I went into business at Arthur Andersen in Detroit and Chicago for a couple of years. And wasn't my thing. And went to Princeton Seminary from there. So that was
a seminary too.
So that was a burst.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did my MDiv. I was going to teach systematic theology. Prepared for that. But systematic theology, if you're truly systematic, economics ends up being part of that, right? The world, how does everything fit together? People, everything these days is money and power.
Yeah.
We'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah, for sure.
But I did that, and I went on a political semester in seminary, went down to Wesley Seminary in D.C., also worked in the God Box with all the church organizations.
The
for a
God
year.
Box?
Yeah.
What is the God Box?
That's all the Presbyterians and the Episcopalians and the Quakers and the Methodists and everybody is housed there, right? All the on Capitol Hill, and so they're doing work with the Supreme Court and all this kind of stuff, and doing policy. Since then, the some denominations with good sense kicked people out of the swamp, shoved them back to the Midwest. Which is a good move in my view, but whatever. And then from there, I saw DC. I got addicted. So I did my PhD at American, which is connected with Wesley Seminary.
Okay.
And so I lived in the dorms at the seminary for a few years while I was doing my PhD.
Wow.
And worked at the World Bank and worked for the Department of Defense and just soaked in as much as I could. And then I went to teach at Randolph. Met my wife up there. Had a Jewish matchmaker up in D.C.
Really?
Hooked us up. Got married. We're still married. So he was effective.
Yeah. Well, apparently so.
Yeah.
So you had
when he does it?
Yeah.
No, he did. Yeah. No, I know. He's just got skills. I mean, he's
got skills.
He could read her and me, and he goes. Whatever. I ain't going into detail.
Was he
on
a
that.
rabbi or just a matchmaker?
No, just a buddy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Also
So just a friend.
No,
Okay.
Yeah, just a buddy. Yeah. And so that I met my wife, and we moved down to Richmond, Virginia.
Nice.
Taught economics for 18 years.
Really?
And then I worked in the Senate there for the head of Senate Finance, a Baptist CPA for 7 years. And then wanted to run for his office, and the machine said, no, you can't do that. And I said, what? I don't get this machine stuff. And I ran for a lower post. I just wanted to start to do public policy.
Yeah.
And then the machine, represented by certain names, I will not name because I'm trying to be Christian here. And they said, you can't run again. And I said, well, who's the head of this machine? And they said, the majority leader, he's going to be speaker. I said, well, I'm going to run against him. So I took out the guy who was going to be speaker of the House.
Really?
Yeah, with no money. So
With
that was
no
a bit
money.
bizarre.
Who
That
was
was
it? Remind us who that was.
Eric Cantor.
Eric-
Not a bad guy personally. Not the thing, but he
Speaker
just
of the House
wasn't
for Virginia.
No,
right? Or
US.
U.S.
US.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that was a big,
that was big.
national story when that happened, when he took out Eric Cantor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my
I had
word.
news,
And did
every
it with
news
no money.
station in my driveway. CNN, 50 news trucks, calls
Wow.
from China, Saudi Arabia that night. Everybody, the whole world called me.
Wow. Why was China interested?
They want to buy me off like whoever.
Like everybody else.
Yeah, like everybody else.
That's all they're interested in. They could as many politicians they can put in their back pocket, the better
Right.
off we are.
Right.
Man.
I mean, the better off they are. That's how they see it. I said we. I didn't mean we.
Not we. Not we in the sense of us, but we in
This
the sense of
podcast
in the
being
sense
brought
of-
to you by
we is in the sense of
Samsung.
them
Yeah.
because So that's your you taught 18 years economics
18.
At University of Richmond or
Randolph-Macon.
Randolph-Macon,
Go fighting
okay.
hyphens.
fighting hyphens.
Hold on,
hold on.
Wait.
Back
They're-
that up.
Yeah.
You gotta say that mascot one more time.
Go fighting hyphens.
What,
Flight?
their mascot is a hyphen?
No, the
Like a question mark?
Steve Colbert. If people want to see a funny spoof on me,
Yeah.
he did a spoof after I won the big thing with no money.
Oh, really?
And he said, all I know about that school is everyone seems to want another job because I ran against another professor at Randolph Macon.
did you
And so
really?
Colbert said, go fight in hyphens because he knew about he went to Hampton, Sydney.
Oh.
And so he was having a little fun with our name.
I
or
guess
whatever.
so.
Yeah.
Wow. The fighting
So-
hyphens.
Go fight in hyphens.
So let me dig in on the political thing. You
Yeah.
decided you wanted to run for which office?
I was going to
Initially.
run for state senate.
State Senate.
Yep.
And the machine
The machine.
calls you and says, "Nah, you can't."
Oh, they don't call you. They just tell you through indirect channels.
Okay.
There's no way of tracking these people.
And
They're like
because
they're like the white balloons that are going overhead. Lately.
I got you.
They're the white
They're very mysterious.
so as far as the machine goes, they just don't promote you. They don't fund you.
Right,
They don't.
right. They just tell you, you ain't, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, you're getting nowhere. So you're
Yeah.
like, okay, well then I'm going to go against your guy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Because there's somebody up at the top of the ladder there controlling who's where.
Right.
and
Oh, that's and that's changing. That's
Is
it. Yeah, I was kind of the canary in the coal mine kind of thing. I was the first signal that came out.
Yeah.
And went, oh boy, that was a big.
Really?
That was a big shocker.
Yeah.
How do you do that with? I mean, you've got a guy who's
Yeah.
primed to be the Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
He's got all the money,
Yep.
all the power.
Yep.
How
Yeah,
did
how
you?
on earth
Well,
did you?
the logic I had in my head, and it's a crazy logic. No one in the Republican circles would challenge him, right? Because your career's done. But I wasn't in Republican circles. I was a likable at the time, right before
And good-looking, I
before
might
they called me Brat Pitt.
Brad Pitt. I
Oh,
like,
wow.
I like that.
That's my
Brad
joke.
Pitt.
That's a joke. I'm not serious, people. And so I was likable. I was your local liberal arts guy, right? My students
Just a man
like
of the
me.
people.
I taught, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Before, and once you win, they call you every name. You know, you
Oh,
hate
sure, yeah.
every group in humanity. Of course, I didn't. I love everybody. But I challenged internal to the machine. And then the Tea Party backed me. And then I ran on the Republican creed.
Yeah.
Which in Virginia had 6 planks, and I said, "Hey, there's nothing wrong with the creed. The only thing wrong is no Republicans follow this thing." And I went through balanced budgets and right down the line, right? And
Wow.
and everyone goes, "Huh?" And so I just viewed it as it's in private, right? People go in private to vote, and I said, "Hey, in public, everyone's got to bow to the money and the power, but in private, I'm gonna take my chances."
Wow.
And so I started calling donors, and they were just laughing at me. Everyone laughed at me. The Don Quixote jokes, one after the other. Dave, I love you, but you're nuts. And I
Wow.
just, whatever, I'm going to do it. So I just did it. And
Man.
won by 10 points.
So
Wow.
not just a slim.
Yeah,
Like
you
No,
absolutely won
yeah.
big time.
No, I won that.
No recount needed on this one.
No,
No.
that was before it got clever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
wow.
That's back when we counted votes.
Right, that's
Yeah,
back
that's
when, yeah.
wow. Well, maybe we should get into that here in a second. So you end up in the U.S. House.
Yep.
And so tell us what that experience is like. Like
pull
what
this
on
mic
earth?
just a little
Yeah, yeah.
What on earth? Like, and you were there for how many terms? Just
2.
Just 2 terms, and that's a whole story too.
Oh, and it
But,
was great. Yeah.
So tell us what it's like to be a U.S. House Representative.
Yep. Oh, I loved it. I mean, the first, I went, Cantor stepped down a couple weeks early, so I went up a couple weeks early.
Okay.
And the beauty of that is they're finishing the budget process. So it's all coming to an end.
Yeah.
So we're going to vote on the U.S. budget, right? And I ran on this, right? So I'm an economist. Everybody,
Mm-hmm.
it's a disaster. And now things are way worse, right? The debt and Social Security, Medicare,
Sure.
they're all bankrupt. And it's gotten worse and worse. And so I'm sitting there, and everyone told me, right, never vote against the rule and never vote last. So I was like, okay, that's good. Well, sure enough, I'm sitting here listening, and this is the final vote on the U.S. budget, right? So, $4 trillion at stake. And it's 212 to 212, and I hadn't voted.
Oh man, really?
So this was
You're
classic.
the last guy.
So
And you get
yeah.
to vote because Cantor left early.
Yeah. And so I'm in. I'm a member. Boehner was the speaker. So Boehner's 30-year-old
I
dude
remember
comes
him.
up. And he was a nice kid. They're all nice
So let's
kids.
see, who's president then? It was it Obama?
Yeah. Obama.
Obama.
Yep. And Obama liked that I won. That's another story, but I won't go there. But
Okay.
But so I'm sitting there, and I hadn't voted. So everybody knows I'm gonna be a no. So Boehner's kid comes up to me in the aisle and says, "Hey, Boehner wants to speak to you in the back room there."
Oh, here it goes.
And
This is
I'm
how it
sitting,
works, folks.
and this
Listen
is how,
close.
this
Lean
is,
in.
This is
Lean
how
in
it
on
works.
this.
And so I'm sitting there with all my Freedom Caucus buddies, and I've known them for 2 weeks, but we attached pretty quick.
Yeah.
And we're all buddies. And I said to the young man, I said, you can tell the speaker. I said, I love him, I respect him, but there's no way I'm going to that back room with him. And the Freedom Caucus, they were falling on the floor laughing. I mean, they were in just stitches.
Because they don't ever see
never seen a
that.
liberal arts professor wimp out, right? And so I was like, no, I ain't going back to. I don't know what's back there.
Told no,
but I got Darth Vader in my mind. I ain't going into that dark room with Darth. And so the kid goes, no, I'm not joking. He says he wants to see it. And I said, oh, I'm not joking either. And I ain't going back there. And so that was a good. And then I voted, and then they kept the vote open for a half hour. And one of my Republican colleagues, they promised him a bridge, literally.
Oh, literally.
Another bridge
in his district. And so he goes in and changes. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you can go look at C-SPAN. I'm not lying. Yep.
Wow.
So that was I got a trillion stories like that. Just hilarious.
So you hit the ground running.
Oh yeah. Oh, running. Bam. Full speed.
And already ticking people off the first couple weeks.
Yeah. And I had all those news trucks in my driveway the first morning, and they're all lefties, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't know all this press game back then, but I'm going out to get my hair cut. And they go, "What do you think about the minimum wage, Dave?" And I said, I got a PhD in economics, and I said I can go off on this for a bit.
Yeah.
And I said I'm not ready. I don't want to talk about it. Next day's paper, Washington Post, Brat's totally ill-equipped. Says he's not ready to handle public policy issues because I'm going to get my hair cut, right?
Because he's going to get his hair cut.
Headlines,
Unbelievable,
bombs,
man.
right? Bombs.
Wow.
And they define you right off the bat.
Wow.
And then you're just like, okay, welcome to the race. You're in.
Yeah.
You're running.
Welcome to the big leagues right there.
There is no downtime.
Zero.
Because anytime, there's no private media. I mean, when you're out there, you're out there. I mean, it's just like
anything and everything you do will be skewed in order to sway public opinion against you.
And I always tell,
amazing.
because in communications, there's no private text either. Anything that's out there is out there.
Wow.
You can Google a couple funny headlines I had too on education policy one day. Mm-hmm. It wasn't one of my better lines, but it made the waves.
What'd you say?
So I said, just in case you guys forgot, not everything in education requires money. I said, Socrates trained in Plato on a pile of rocks, and Plato trained in Aristotle roughly on a pile of rocks, and these are the most brilliant people that have ever lived. Mm-hmm. Next headline, Washington Post tomorrow morning. Brat says education establishment eat rocks.
Unbelievable.
Right.
That's not what Brat said.
Oh, my word.
And you can Google that. That's all these things. There's the widely. Yeah, they're just, no, I know, right. And it's true. I'm pointing out, right, wisdom and knowledge and all this doesn't take, it's a discipline. You sit down with a book and a kick, you can get smart.
But in the end, in politics in D.C., it all comes down to money and power.
Yeah.
Every bit of it.
All of it. That's
every
what's
vote
right.
we watch
Yeah.
on C-SPAN, everything that we watch is all being driven by, most of the time, tell me if I'm wrong, because I would love to be wrong, but personal motivation for personal gain.
Yep. Yeah. No,
is that right?
The whole thing. I was on the U.S. Budget Committee. Paul Ryan's the head. He's trained his whole life for this. He's very smart. I like him individually, personally. He's very nice to me. They walk in, they say, here's the number at the end of the year. This is the budget number. You guys chat all you want for 6 months. Have fun, but here's the number.
Wow.
Right? And then if you want to really get into one example, Gary Palmer and I found $40 billion we're paying to dead people.
$40 billion that we're paying just
dead people,
to dead
right.
people.
And
famous dead people?
Nothing, by
or?
the way. At the state level, that's a big number. Up there, it's like
up there,
who
that's
cares?
dropping a
So we go to
bucket.
Paul and say, hey, Paul, we're paying $40 billion to dead people. Can we at least put that little thing toward the deficit? And he says, let me check. Well, we're like, you're the speaker, right? You're the boss. So
who you got to check with?
So he's checking with a giant Excel spreadsheet in the sky, is what I call it, right? So the revenues are in, right? All the money's come into the government already. Mm-hmm. So what really is at stake on your money and power theme is, in order to save that $40 billion for the people, put it toward the debt, they got to take it away from somebody, right?
Somebody
that money's
who's dead,
already
right?
been no. It's not going to anything, right?
It's going to somebody's pocket somewhere. Mm-hmm.
And so even if you find it, it's going to either Democrats' buddies or Republican buddies.
So is that called an offset? Is that what they call that? I mean, what in the world?
Yeah, I mean, it's an offset in terms of if you found some money, it should be an offset, but it wasn't an offset. It was going to, John Q. Crony.
Are you picking up on all these great little lines? I
It's
love this.
unbelievable, man. It's just unbelievable, and which is why we're looking at the debt
Yep.
that we have now in
Right,
our country,
right.
trillions and trillions
Yep.
and trillions. We'll
Yep.
never get it paid off.
Nope.
And so let's talk about that. How can America keep surviving, printing more money
Yep.
with this massive amount of debt? We owe people like China,
Yep.
trillions?
A chunk. People think we're 32 trillion in debt. Maybe $1 trillion or $2 is China. Most of it's just to ourselves.
Really?
For U.S. Treasury.
Really?
Yeah.
So because a lot of people don't understand this. If we're printing our own money, what's the big deal with the debt?
Well, we found out right now there wasn't any problem per se. Of course, you owe it, and we're spending it, so it's intergenerational theft. That's the first issue, right? We're spending it. The kids are now in debt. So their
The next
generation doesn't get to spend like drunken sailors like we do, right? but the new thing that happened was we really got ambitious, and the Federal Reserve printed money, right? And so you're supposed to print, if GDP is growing at 3%, you're supposed to print 3%. Well, the Fed last year printed 41%. So if you follow Uncle Milty Friedman in economics, who won the Nobel for monetary theory, he would say that's going to result in inflation. So that's the new thing.
Which is what it has.
And inflation. And then to get rid of inflation, you got to increase the interest rate to cool inflation. So now the interest rate went from 0 for 10 years. They held the interest rate is the price of money. It's the most important price in your economy.
Really?
So the interest rate is the price you pay to get money. They made it artificially low to keep the stock market up for 10 years in a row. Now it's at 5 within a year. Boom. Well, that's a huge shock and adjustment. But more important than that is now you got to pay 5% interest on 32 trillion in debt. That's the new catch, right? So before it was
and
free,
the only way you can do that is to
run
raise
debt.
taxes.
Yeah. Oh, right. And so now it's all coming due, right? And do that math, right? Just do 10% of 32 trillion, so it's 3 trillion. So 5% would be 1.5 trillion. That's double our defense budget. That's just interest payments on the debt.
Just interest.
That's not debt, right? That's just interest payments on the debt.
Where does that come from?
Us.
Taxpayers.
And we have to pay that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So
Taxpayers.
taxes. And, right.
But not the illegals, just the people who are citizens.
And we still are going into more debt, right? We're going $1 trillion deficit at least, probably $1.5 trillion again. We just did $1.5 trillion or $2 trillion deficit last year, which adds to the
and
debt.
at what point does our president or Congress or anybody go, hey, this is not working?
Yeah. Well, it's not. I'll be clear on this. I'm already out of office, so I can't lose again. It's not Congress people's fault. It's your fault.
Yeah, because of the way you
people,
vote.
You people are putting in on both sides
both
of the
sides,
party.
yeah.
Sorry, right? You're putting in folks who are lying to you.
Yeah.
And the next generation, I always encourage every young kid I meet. I say, you can go be a lobbyist up in D.C., pay yourself $100,000 a year easy, and you ought to advocate for your generation on the debt. And Social Security's bankrupt, and Medicare's bankrupt. Right? Go look at their own board of trustees. It'll take you 1 minute to find it.
Okay, you said something though a second ago that kind of struck me, because you said folks that you know are lying to you. And one thing I would wonder is, do they really know that they're being lied to? Because to me, it seems like most people are voting for whoever gets the most media attention. Because they don't know who to vote for. They don't know the issues. They don't know what people even stand for. They vote for the best looking or the one who gets the most media
Yeah,
attention.
I
I'm sorry. I
appreciate
meant
that.
to. I
You
meant to
look right
point.
at you.
I meant to point at Brat.
Well, I feel like this is a
Pitt,
good podcast
over here.
Podcast to announce my candidacy.
Oh,
Good.
great!
Yes.
I'll vote for you because I know what you stand for. but
So
you
we
know,
need some
but am I
liberty
wrong there? Because it's to me, it's a popularity contest,
Yeah.
not necessarily a policies
Well,
contest.
and it's all. I mean, by the time you get down to it, you're right? Because you got one Republican sitting there and one Democrat, and everybody goes, well, the Republicans associated with blah, 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 and the Dems associated with blah, blah, blah. And one of the two triggers people psychologically, right? So people are just triggered, and the country's split philosophically, ideologically right now like crazy
it's
to
the
these
worst
two
I've ever
sides.
seen. Yeah.
So a lot of it's not rational. But on the other hand, these suburban people, there's a lot of suburban moms and dads. I knew them. They're very smart. They're very sophisticated. They do know better. And all they want, like I had donors, right? So I got a rich guy in Virginia, one of the top 10 guys in the state.
Yeah.
I said, hey, you going to support me this year? He said, no. I said, can I ask you why? And he goes, yeah, you need to learn to compromise. And I said, I respect that. I said, let me give you an example of my vote next week. I said the Republicans want a $900 billion deficit. The Dems want a $1.1 trillion deficit. Should I compromise and do a $1 trillion deficit? He says, Dave, don't be a beep, beep, right? I can't say it. Don't be a smart man.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not. That's my vote next week. You're a much smarter business guy than I am. What's your vote?
Exactly.
So no one want, right? So they're rational.
Pretty cut and dry.
They just want to keep doing what they're doing. They just want to keep making their own little money and live in a nice little bubble where they got a nice life set up for themselves in suburbia, and they're not taking God into context. Otherwise, they'd be thinking different. They're not taking just economic.
Not even the next
rationality.
generation is in
or
context.
the next generation. Right.
So I've got a quick question because something that just happened talking about compromise with the Speaker of the House now, with Kevin McCarthy.
Right.
Your Freedom Caucus guys were making big news.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But then there were people who were saying, well, wait, hold on. You're actually making the Republican Party look like idiots. And the other guys would, no, you got to stand for something. So where would you have fallen in that? And what really happened behind the scenes?
Oh, I did fall.
Yeah, that's the problem. We don't really hear what happened.
know what happened.
So,
All of a sudden-
the news is making these 20 guys out to look like the big reason we can't get a vote through.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, well,
we don't know.
The basic question is the status quo okay? Right, to make it as simple as you can.
So would you say Kevin McCarthy is status quo?
Of course.
Okay.
And I took out his buddy, right? So he wasn't in love with me.
Yeah.
Right? So it's okay, right? I was shocked. Everyone else loved me. All the senior guys loved me.
And how long has McCarthy been in office? 20 years?
A long time, yeah.
So they're in the midst of this game.
Right.
And the game, they can't.
He was in leadership with Boehner.
And that's the worst
and
part.
we took out Boehner. So we already took out Boehner. I was
Yeah.
in the Freedom Caucus. We took out Boehner. About 10 of us, and then it went to 20 or 30 back then. And so we thought, here's a crack, and then we won the House, and then we won the Senate, and then we won the White House. And what did we do? Nothing.
No, we had
That was
all the majority
right,
and
we
did
had-
absolutely nothing.
And
I couldn't
we
believe
promised
it.
one thing for 7 years: we're going to repeal Obamacare.
Didn't do
Nope,
it.
didn't do it.
I couldn't believe it.
Nope. And it was.
And
a
why
shocker.
is that? Because payola on the backside?
Huge money.
Jeez.
The healthcare is about 1/6 of the economy.
Wow.
Right, so 1/6 of 30 trillion, $5 trillion, a lot of money. All the Medicare drugs, Medicaid drugs is attached to it. Hospitals. I had 3 young CEO guys, presidents of health systems. They come in to me, Dave. We love you. We love the way you think. We agree with everything. We can't support you. I was like,
Unbelievable.
Because of healthcare.
money. It's money. Money.
Because
and
they're
power.
getting too much money.
Right.
So break down for me because I'm just a simple guy. Not really, but I'll just say that. So everything that Freedom Caucus was fighting for,
right.
in holding Speaker McCarthy's election up.
Yeah.
What was it?
It sounds boring, but it's procedural rules that everyone would agree with. Anyone after the fact on examination, should you debate bills in front of the people in Congress? Yes.
Yes.
They wanted that. Should you have bills limited to one content area, or should you allow endless junk to be thrown into a bill? One. Everyone will say it. Should the process, do you have a right to challenge the speaker? That was the biggie.
Yeah.
And that one, you can differ on that one, but my view is fine, right?
Yeah.
If you can't sustain yourself. But it was mainly just procedural stuff that allows members, like I just told you when I was on the budget committee, the chairman of the budget committee, who's got no power either. It's only the speaker. One person does it all. So they said, you're on this committee. You still have no say on the budget at all.
But
and the American people don't know any of this.
I found out several things through that process that when I found out, I was like, are you kidding me? So you as a member of the budget committee, if it was chaired by someone who didn't like you, nothing that you want done or a bill that you, even bipartisan, it's getting nowhere. Because
you don't even get to bring it up. I mean, there's
unbelievable.
nothing. Right. And I was a rabble rouser, right, when I was in there, because I wanted to fix the economy.
Yeah.
And so as a result of that and taking out, leadership canner, I got no money for my reelections, zero. Every other member gets $10 million. Everyone gets $10 million.
Everybody gets $10 million. You didn't get a dollar.
And if you vote terribly and if you're in a liberal district like Chicago or San Fran or whatever, and you vote against the Republican creed, you get $20 million. And if you run on the Republican creed and say, I'm going to follow this thing because we need to, or the country's doomed, you get zero money. Right, and I couldn't get on any. The money committees are where you can raise money, right? Defense committee, there's a finance committee. I was put on the low level committees.
Don't these people know they're ruining our nation, or do they just not care? Seriously,
well, they'll just say back to you, well, okay, Dave, you got all these great ideas, but we got to vote on it, and your ideas won't pass. So they just give up immediately, right? They'll just say, why even try? And like right now, for example, right, we got the House, but they got the Senate and the White House.
Yeah. So it's just,
you put together, they'll just say, well, it's not going to go through Senate, so skip it. So the status quo kind of always wins unless you really go at it and change minds out there, right, to the people.
Which is where Trump comes in, I guess,
right.
because that's where he was completely radical and ticked everybody off.
Yeah.
Along with you.
Right. Yeah. And I differed with Trump. I wouldn't vote for the Paul Ryan's healthcare bill. So Trump calls yelling at me. And even when he's yelling at me, he's funny. I was just dying laughing.
Yeah.
I was just like, he's just wailing at me. My wife's downstairs. She says, you all right? I said, I think so. I said, we'll find out in a bit. And Trump's like, you going to vote for this? I said, no, mister. I said, I'm doing this to help you. It's a terrible bill.
Yeah.
He says, no, there's 3 pots to it. I said, there's not 3 pots. Paul Ryan's telling you there's 3 pots. There's 1 pot, and it's a disaster. And costs are going to go up 20%, and it's a dog with fleas. Well, how do you like me on the other stuff? A+, great. Keep doing what you do.
So he just wanted to hear something good.
Oh, yeah.
Give me something good.
He just wants to make sure.
He's funny. And then I said,
how do you like me over here?
Yeah.
well, and then he comes back. He's a good salesman. And he comes back. So you're going to vote for it? I said, no. I'm just doing it. I said, I promise people, and I'm not breaking my word, right? I said, I promise my people I ain't voting for this junk.
Oh, man. Why don't we take a little break? What do you
Sounds
think?
good, man. This is a blast talking to you.
Oh, man, we'll be right back on the Charles
With
Billingsley
Brat Pitt.
podcast with Brat Pitt.
Come on.
Doctor.
Doctor, that's right.
Dr. Brat Pitt.
I was made for this.
Welcome back to the Charles Billingsley podcast. Adam here with Brandon and Charles, and our guest today, Dr. David Brat.
Thank you, sir.
Or Dr.
AKA
Brat Pitt.
That's right.
That's right.
Donned him for
Little
the
humor for the
show.
hour, right?
Yeah, a little humor.
Okay, so we're talking inside of the political world. Let me ask a question. Would term limits for Congress members make any difference in all this mess at all?
A little. And I've learned it firsthand, and I'll tell you why it won't work. Because I loved it. At first, everybody loves it, right? It's intuitively attractive. But, okay, so the senior guy gets timed out. He loses. All right? Then you got a primary to take his spot. So you got 2 folks. The speaker, McCarthy or whoever it is, Boehner, goes to the 2 and says, do you bend the knee on voting against the rule, voting for the budgets, following leadership?
Yep.
Yes or no? The answer to that will be accompanied either by $10 million for your election or 0.
Amazing.
And so
Gracious.
you can term limit it. It will break up the longevity of the leadership sclerosis, right, that builds up, right, over time. It'll break up a little of that. But on the other hand, you're going to get youthful folks, and it does take a while to get going. But they're all going to be compromised by leadership, unless they're in a ruby red district, very conservative. Then they're safe. And they can vote their conscience.
But you were running in the Midlothian district.
Yeah.
Now, who did you lose to? First off, I can't believe you had 2 terms. I can't believe you, with no money, that you won the second time.
Oh, no, I should have won. I won by 15.
The second time.
And the first time. I won by 15 and won by 15, and then in 18 lost by 2. So if you're conspiracy theory, and the person who beat me is from the CIA, but, there's nothing to see there probably. But whatever, so that's my humor.
There's nothing to see.
There's nothing to see.
Nothing to see here.
Listen, folks, there's
Yoda
nothing to
mantra,
see
right,
here.
there's nothing
You
to see
see nothing.
Right? And so I find it hard to believe. And then the person after me won by 2. And then last few months ago, Varga, a very capable young Christian Hispanic woman with experience in law enforcement, loses by 2. Why 2?
Why
because
2?
if it's 1, you get a recount.
Wow.
So it's always 2, 2, 2.
Unbelievable.
Very, it's just like, come on. So I think eventually stuff's going to come out, but I'm not going to, whatever.
So is there voter fraud?
Oh yeah. Oh, there's absolutely voter fraud. Arizona.
Oh gosh.
And the
So how come it's always on the other side though? How come the liberals and the Democrats always win on these questionable elections every time?
I got a funny joke, but we got too many Christians.
Just go ahead and share
No,
it. We can always edit.
We can always say
our
can edit.
folks won't lie, cheat, and steal. Right? We got a lot of people with consciences that just will not go there, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, even if you lose,
But can't we catch them? Why can't we catch them?
we're getting there. We're getting there, and in the red states, they're putting in paper ballot requirements and whatever.
But we need to put them in the blue states.
No, I know. Well, that'll take time, right? But we'll see.
Yeah, put some in Philadelphia and put some in Miami and put some in Chicago.
The biggest fraud that's just obvious is these mail-in ballots, right? Where the ballots are out and there's no chain of custody.
Right.
Right? They're not in envelopes even. There's no
Good grief.
signature on them. And they come in and then we count them and then the lawsuits will follow, but the election's already done, so everyone goes,
And if you
whatever.
question it, they say, well, then you don't believe every vote counts.
Yeah, no, it's crazy stuff.
And,
Yeah,
and
right.
so
And
you're not for democracy.
And
Yeah,
it's
no,
dead.
I'm for
it's
democracy. I know,
thousands
it's
of
like
dead
upside
people,
down.
all kinds of
Right,
craziness.
Right.
And we can't stop this for some reason.
Yeah, well, it's been a long time coming, building up in these machines across, power cities.
Unbelievable.
Did you want to ask about
Wow.
our friend Barack Obama?
So you interacted with him a little bit your first
Yeah.
term?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Oh, it was more humorous. I could just, you can read each other's
He
faces.
seems like a very likable person.
He's a very likable guy, and we were at a Christmas thing at the White House. He's hosting.
Mm-hmm.
He when I was walking up, he was smiling. He knows I'm a quasi intellectual,
Yeah.
Christian intellectual kind of guy.
Yeah.
And so he's smiling, going, "Oh, we could share a few funny stories, right?" You
Yeah.
could just kind of tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I said hey to him and his wife, and so I beat. He did not like Eric Cantor.
Okay.
Eric was popping him on Obamacare pretty hard.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing candidate, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying to be fair and balanced here.
So how did your time there,
Yeah.
how did that change you?
Yeah.
Now, because you're probably a different person after
Yeah.
that experience.
Yeah. Well, I always believed in total depravity. And so that confirmed the view of total depravity. Genesis 3 comes to mind more often than it used to.
This is coming from
The
a seminary graduate.
Right,
of,
right. And so, I mean, it brings it to bear, which makes the mission of liberty and the Christian message all the more. I mean, there is a spiritual war going on out there now.
Absolutely.
And no one, 10 years ago, if you said that, people would look at you sideways a little bit. Spiritual war. Now you say everybody knows, right?
Yeah.
There's a spiritual
It's
war
so
going on.
obvious,
Everybody's just like, wow. I mean, it's so, but we're babies in this type of thought, right? And if you said Marxism, well, I studied Marxism because I did a PhD in economics. So I know Marx and I know Hegel and the whole Western line, right? But if you said any of that stuff before, nothing. But now, oh boy, it's embedded, right, in ESG
Big time.
investments and in the schools with the crazy attacks by race and gender on all this crazy stuff. This stuff has emerged in the last 5 years out of nowhere, right? These new identity formulations and whatever, just out of nowhere. And so but I wish there was some good news. And people, always say, well, there could be an awakening or whatever. Well, that's all good too, but you can have the awakening. It still takes years and years and years to build up wisdom, right? Wisdom doesn't fall into place immediately. Even if you have an awakening that reinvigorates the spirit and gets people going. It still take a long time to work through the institutions, get our kids mature in not just the faith, but knowledge and wisdom and et cetera.
Is that why you came to Liberty?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you
Oh, yeah.
wanted to
Big
start
mission.
here.
Yeah, I had a couple other offers up there in the swamp, but I love education, hanging out with the students.
And raising up the next generation
Yep.
with wisdom.
Yep, right.
And speaking of that, you are the dean of the School of Business, which is a massive job because we're not talking about just the students on campus. We're talking about 25,000 business students off campus.
Right,
How many
right.
students do you have under you?
Yeah, 28,000. Right?
28,000
Three on
students.
campus, 25,000 off virtual.
Wow.
It's amazing.
But
Yeah.
what an opportunity.
No, it's incredible.
28,000 business leaders coming up through this system
And you
under your
get
leadership.
how much of your education online?
All of it.
So you can
Yeah.
go all
Yeah.
the way MBA.
Yeah, I
You
got
can do it
folks
all
in
online.
California call in and
Doctorates.
talk to people all over the world.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
And that is my hope and dream, is that our platform goes international. We've been doing these CEO summits with African leaders coming in from major the former president from Ghana was with us last year, major leaders from Nigeria and DRC Congo and whatever. And man, if we can, and they're our friends. They're friends in faith. Right?
Well, and you feel like Africa is kind of like the next great frontier for business, don't you?
Yeah.
Why is that?
They because they share our values. And we've been AWOL. The U.S. Used to, the kind of the post-World War II liberal Bretton Woods order, liberal in the good sense. Like we made a deal with the world, right? We'll pay for the defense, we'll protect the seaways and trade and all that in exchange for you not going communist. So that was the last 70 years world order of things. And Africa, during that period, we were not affirmative enough with them, helping them set up policies and free markets, because we had plenty of other stuff, right? We were doing European trade and Mexico and South America. But it turns out, you should probably deal with folks you like. And the African friends that come over here to these summits, they just, the joy, they have this Christian joy you just see immediately, and they can't believe being in a Christian joint. They're like, I've never been to anything like this. Right, because the CEOs, you got to be a little cocky in the real world, right? Tough. Yeah. And here, everyone's not tough. Yeah. Everyone's just brotherly, sisterly, and they sense that like this, and they're sharp. I mean, they're sharp business people.
That's awesome.
We're gonna have to wrap it up pretty soon.
Yeah.
But I know you have one question.
Well, and I didn't warn you about this. Well, I got two questions.
Okay,
First of all the things we're seeing in the news, the unidentified flying objects. What do you think they are?
I think they're Chinese satellite balloons. It's obvious what they are. It's unbelievable.
Look at you like, what do you mean?
I know.
Yeah,
we got the White House spokesman talking about UFOs, and he used the term UFO.
He did?
Yes.
I missed that.
Yes. It's
unbelievable.
And this is the most serious, that we haven't gotten into China. That's the most serious issue of our day by 100%.
It's a CFO.
Yeah.
It's not a UFO.
Right.
It's a Chinese
flying object. Boy, that is so good.
Or aliens.
I like how you combined the business school thing with the.
They're getting creative.
That CEO is a CFO.
Well, it's amazing to me that we wait so many days to finally shoot it down after it crosses the entire country gathering information.
The whole country.
So, yeah. Well, anyway, here's our big question. We ask everybody that comes on this show this question.
Okay.
And I'm sure you've thought about it, but and it can be any category you want. But here's the question: if money was not an issue, if time was not an issue, and you could do one more thing in your life, big dream, big hairy audacious goal, what would it be?
Oh man!
President of the United States?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind running the whole thing. No, I don't.
That is perfect.
I mean,
That is
that's everybody's
it.
dream, right? I mean, that'd be cool to be the philosopher king, follow Brother Plato, and putting wisdom, right, together with politics.
Yeah.
And that was, Plato and Aristotle, they all said you ought to wait till you're 50, so you got some sense to you, some wisdom to run things. So my whole life has been education and public policy together. So that's my dream. I'll stay doing that here at Liberty. I get to have a microphone because of friends like you and these gentlemen here. And so, that's a gift and a blessing to just be able to share. You know how many people don't get to share ideas? I mean, what a blessing it is to be, to live that life, right? So that's incredible. So I'm happy right now. Just hanging with the Billingsley podcast, brother.
Come on, man. So you're living your dream right now.
Yes.
I love it. That's beautiful. No better life than that.
Man.
Any other questions, guys?
No, man.
I think we're good.
That was awesome.
Fascinating.
Thank you.
You guys
Very
are good.
Fascinating.
Thank you.
You guys are great.
This was fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it, buddy.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you.